Have you ever ruined a good day with one bad reaction? One message. One insult. One moment of anger. And suddenly your peace is gone. That is how most people lose control of their lives. Not because life is hard, but because they react too quickly. The Stoics understood something powerful centuries ago. You cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can always control your reaction. And the moment you master your reactions, you become dangerous in the best possible way. Calm. Focused. Untouchable. So if you want peace, strength, and a mind nobody can manipulate, stay with me until the end. And if you believe in becoming mentally stronger every single day, subscribe to the channel and join this journey together. Imagine a man standing in the middle of a storm. The wind is screaming. The rain is violent. Everything around him is chaos. But he does not move. That is what Stoicism teaches. Not how to stop the storm, but how to remain steady inside it. Most people spend their entire lives trying to control the world around them. They try to control people, situations, outcomes, opinions. And they suffer endlessly because none of those things truly belong to them. But your reaction, that belongs to you. And once you understand this, life changes forever. A young man once worked under a cruel boss. Every morning the boss insulted him in front of everyone. One day his friend asked, "Why do you keep letting him destroy your mood?" The young man answered, "Because he controls my paycheck." Years passed. The insults continued. The stress destroyed his confidence. Then one morning something changed. The boss insulted him again. But instead of reacting with anger or sadness, the young man simply smiled and continued his work calmly. The boss became confused. For the first time, his words had no power. That day the young man realized something: nobody can humiliate you without your permission. The Stoics believed that suffering does not come from events themselves, but from our judgment of those events. Two people can experience the same problem. One breaks down. The other grows stronger. Why? Because reaction shapes reality. Think about fire. Fire can cook food, or destroy a home. The same fire. Different result. Your emotions work the same way. Anger can become destruction, or discipline. Pain can become weakness, or wisdom. Fear can become panic, or preparation. Everything depends on how you respond. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." That single sentence can save your life. Because the world will always test you. People will disappoint you. Some will betray you. Some will laugh at your dreams. Some will try to provoke you. But reacting emotionally to everything is like giving strangers the keys to your mind. And once people control your emotions, they control you. There was once a fighter known for never losing his temper. During one competition, his opponent insulted him constantly. Pushed him. Mocked his family. Tried everything possible to make him angry. But the fighter stayed calm. At the end of the match, the angry opponent became exhausted from emotional chaos, while the calm fighter remained focused and won easily. Afterward someone asked him, "How did you stay so calm?" He replied, "The moment I become angry, I stop thinking clearly. And the moment I lose clarity, I lose power." That is Stoicism. Calm is power. Most people think strength means shouting louder. Getting revenge. Winning arguments. But true strength is emotional control. Anyone can explode. Very few can stay calm under pressure. A lion does not panic when dogs bark. Remember that. People who react emotionally to every criticism become prisoners of public opinion. One negative comment ruins their day. One rejection destroys their confidence. One failure makes them quit. But Stoicism teaches a different path. The opinion of others is not your identity. A king once invited a philosopher to dinner. During the meal, one guest insulted the philosopher repeatedly, hoping to embarrass him. But the philosopher remained peaceful. Finally the king asked, "Why didn't you respond?" The philosopher smiled and said, "If someone tries to hand you a gift and you refuse to accept it, who does the gift belong to?" The king answered, "To the person who offered it." "Exactly," the philosopher said. "I refuse to accept his insults." Powerful. Not every insult deserves your attention. Not every argument deserves your energy. Not every battle deserves your peace. One of the greatest skills you can learn is the ability to pause before reacting. That small pause can save relationships, careers, and even lives. When emotions rise, intelligence falls. That is why angry people say things they regret. That is why emotional decisions often create painful consequences. Stoicism teaches you to slow down your response. To breathe. Observe. Think clearly. A woman once received a cruel text message late at night. She was furious. Her hands shook with anger as she typed a long emotional reply. But before sending it, she remembered something her grandfather once told her: never make permanent decisions during temporary emotions. So she deleted the message and went to sleep. The next morning she discovered the text had been sent by mistake. One moment of patience saved her from unnecessary conflict. This is why emotional discipline matters. A calm mind sees clearly. An emotional mind sees enemies everywhere. The world is already full of noise. Do not allow your mind to become part of that noise. There is another dangerous trap Stoicism warns us about: taking everything personally. Most people walk through life believing every negative action is about them. Someone ignores them, they feel rejected. Someone criticizes them, they feel attacked. Someone succeeds, they feel threatened. But often people act from their own pain, fear, and insecurity. A man once shouted angrily at a cashier in a small store. The cashier stayed calm and kind. After the customer left, another worker asked, "How did you stay so patient?" The cashier answered softly, "That man probably carries battles I know nothing about." That response is wisdom. Stoicism teaches compassion without emotional weakness. Not every rude person deserves hatred. Some people are simply suffering internally. And when you understand that, you stop absorbing negativity into your spirit. You begin protecting your inner peace. Because peace is expensive. And not everyone deserves access to it. The Stoics also understood that life is unpredictable. You can plan carefully, work hard, do everything right. And still face difficulties. That is reality. But emotional resilience allows you to survive storms without losing yourself. A farmer once lost his horse. The neighbors said, "What terrible luck." The farmer replied, "Maybe." A few days later the horse returned with 3 wild horses. The neighbors said, "What amazing luck." The farmer replied, "Maybe." Later the farmer's son broke his leg while training one of the horses. Again the neighbors called it terrible luck. The farmer simply answered, "Maybe." Soon after, soldiers arrived to recruit young men for war. Because of the broken leg, the son was spared. The story teaches something important: you do not always know whether an event is good or bad in the long run. So reacting emotionally too quickly can blind you from future blessings. Sometimes rejection protects you. Sometimes failure redirects you. Sometimes pain transforms you. But only if you remain calm enough to learn from it. One of the hardest moments to control your reaction is during disrespect. Disrespect hurts the ego deeply. People want revenge. They want to prove themselves. They want to fight back immediately. But Stoicism teaches that your dignity increases when your emotions decrease. A wise old man once said, "The person who angers you conquers you." Think about that carefully. Every time someone controls your emotions, they gain power over your peace. Do not give that power away so easily. Silence can be stronger than shouting. Walking away can be stronger than fighting. And self-control can be stronger than revenge. There was a successful businessman known for his calm personality. During an important meeting, a competitor insulted him publicly. Everyone waited for him to react. But he calmly drank water and continued speaking professionally. Later someone asked why he stayed silent. He answered, "If I react emotionally, I become equal to the chaos." That is maturity. Not weakness. Wisdom. The Stoics believed emotions themselves are not the enemy. The problem is becoming a slave to emotions. Feel anger, but do not let anger control your actions. Feel sadness, but do not let sadness destroy your purpose. Feel fear, but do not let fear stop your growth. Emotions are visitors. They should not become rulers. A sailor cannot control the ocean. But he can control the sail. That is your reaction. Every morning you have two choices: react unconsciously, or respond wisely. And those small choices shape your future. Imagine two men losing their jobs. One becomes bitter. Complains constantly. Blames everyone. Gives up. The other feels the same pain, but uses it as motivation to rebuild his life. Years later one remains trapped in resentment, while the other becomes stronger than before. The event was the same. The reaction changed everything. This is why Stoicism is powerful. It teaches ordinary people how to become mentally unshakable. And in today's world, that is rare. Social media trains people to react instantly. To argue instantly. To become offended instantly. But wisdom requires patience. Not every thought deserves expression. Not every emotion deserves action. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is remain composed. A monk once carried a candle through a windy village at night. Someone mocked him and tried to blow the candle out repeatedly. But the monk protected the flame carefully and kept walking. Another traveler asked, "Why didn't you argue with him?" The monk replied, "My focus was protecting the light, not fighting the darkness." Beautiful. Protect your inner light. Do not waste your energy fighting every negative person you meet. Some battles only drain you. Stoicism teaches selective attention. Focus on what truly matters. Your goals. Your peace. Your character. Your growth. Everything else is noise. And remember this, people often regret emotional reactions more than difficult situations themselves. A harsh word spoken in anger can damage relationships for years. One emotional decision can create lifelong consequences. That is why controlling your reaction is not just philosophy, it is survival. A father once became angry with his son for breaking an expensive watch. In rage, he shouted terrible things at the boy. Later he discovered the child had accidentally broken it while trying to fix it as a birthday surprise. The father cried alone that night. The watch could be replaced. But the pain in his son's eyes stayed in his memory forever. Reaction matters. Words matter. Patience matters. The Stoics practiced something called negative visualization. Instead of expecting life to be perfect, they prepared mentally for challenges. Not to become pessimistic, but to become stronger. When you expect some difficulty in life, you stop panicking every time problems appear. A delayed plan no longer destroys your mood. Criticism no longer shocks you. Failure no longer breaks your identity. You become stable. Like a mountain during rain. Strong people are not people without emotions. They are people who understand emotions without becoming controlled by them. That is real mastery. And here is something important, you do not build emotional control during peaceful moments. You build it during difficult moments. Every insult is training. Every delay is training. Every disappointment is training. Life constantly gives you opportunities to practice calmness. Most people fail those tests repeatedly. But if you practice daily, you slowly become harder to shake. A young athlete once asked his coach, "How do I stay calm during pressure?" The coach handed him a glass full of water and said, "Walk through the crowd without spilling it." As the athlete walked carefully, people shouted at him, laughed, and tried distracting him. But he stayed focused on the glass. When he returned, the coach asked, "Did you hear what they were saying about you?" The athlete replied, "No. I was focused on not spilling the water." Exactly. Focused people do not react to every distraction. They protect their energy. And in life, your attention is your most valuable currency. Where attention goes, energy flows. If you constantly focus on negativity, your life feels heavy. If you focus on growth, your mind becomes powerful. Stoicism teaches you to become the guardian of your mind. Not every thought deserves belief. Not every emotion deserves obedience. Observe your mind carefully. Sometimes your anger comes from pride. Sometimes your fear comes from imagination. Sometimes your sadness comes from expectations. Learn to question your reactions. A man once missed an important opportunity because someone criticized his idea publicly. He became embarrassed and quit immediately. Years later he discovered the same idea made someone else successful. His failure was not caused by criticism, but by his reaction to criticism. Never allow temporary emotions to destroy long-term opportunities. The world respects emotionally stable people. Why? Because stability creates trust. People feel safe around calm individuals. Leaders remain calm under pressure. Wise people think before speaking. Emotional control is not boring. It is elite discipline. And the beautiful thing is, anyone can develop it. Little by little. Day by day. The next time someone insults you, pause. The next time life disappoints you, pause. The next time anger rises inside you, pause. Inside that pause lives your power. That small space between stimulus and response, that is where freedom exists. A prisoner may lose physical freedom, but nobody can imprison a disciplined mind. That is why Stoicism survived for thousands of years. Because human nature never changes. People still struggle with anger, fear, jealousy, stress, ego. But the Stoics left us a timeless solution: master yourself. Not the world. Yourself. And once you control yourself, very little in life can control you. Imagine becoming the type of person who remains calm during chaos. The type of person who cannot be manipulated emotionally. The type of person who thinks clearly while others panic. That kind of inner strength changes everything. Relationships improve. Decisions improve. Confidence improves. Because peace creates clarity. And clarity creates power. Before you sleep tonight, remember this. Every reaction is shaping your future. Every moment of patience is building strength. Every moment of discipline is building character. Do not allow temporary emotions to control permanent consequences. Be calm. Be disciplined. Be aware. The world is full of emotional people. Become rare. And there is one truth most people never realize until it is too late. Your life is not destroyed in one single moment. It is destroyed slowly, through repeated emotional reactions. One angry decision. One impulsive response. One moment of lost control repeated again and again. That is how peace disappears. But the opposite is also true. A powerful life is built through small moments of self-control. Every time you stay calm instead of exploding, you become stronger. Every time you choose silence over unnecessary conflict, you grow wiser. Every time you master your emotions, you reclaim your freedom. The Stoics believe that discipline is the highest form of self-respect. Because when you cannot control yourself, life controls you. Think about how many people ruin opportunities because of emotion. A talented athlete destroys his career because of anger. A smart student gives up because of fear. A loving relationship collapses because of pride. Not because they lacked ability, but because they lacked emotional control. A king once had a servant who accidentally spilled wine on his expensive clothes during an important gathering. Everyone expected the king to explode with rage. But instead, the king smiled calmly and said, "If I cannot control my temper over spilled wine, then I am not fit to rule a kingdom." The guests were shocked. That moment revealed true power. Anyone can control themselves when life is easy. But calmness during frustration, that is mastery. And the reality is, life will test your patience constantly. Traffic. Delays. Disrespect. Rejection. Failure. Loss. You cannot escape difficulty. But you can decide who you become through difficulty. That choice belongs to you every single day. A young woman once dreamed of starting her own business. She worked hard for years, saved money, and finally launched it. But after only a few months, customers criticized her online harshly. The comments hurt deeply. For weeks she could barely sleep. She wanted to quit. Then one night her grandfather told her something she never forgot: if you stop every time people criticize you, strangers will control your destiny. That sentence changed her life. Instead of reacting emotionally, she studied the criticism calmly. Some comments were hateful and useless. But some contained lessons. She improved her business quietly. Years later, the same people who mocked her respected her success. That is the power of emotional discipline. Calm people adapt. Emotional people collapse. And here is something important: Stoicism does not mean becoming emotionless. It means becoming emotionally intelligent. There is a difference. An emotionless person feels nothing. A Stoic feels deeply, but remains in control. A river can be powerful without overflowing its banks. That is the goal. To feel anger without becoming destructive. To feel sadness without becoming hopeless. To feel fear without becoming paralyzed. Control does not remove emotion. It guides emotion. A warrior once asked an old master, "What is the secret to strength?" The master took him to a lake early in the morning. The water was completely still. Then the master threw a stone into the lake. Waves spread everywhere. "Your mind is like this water," he said. "When disturbed, it loses clarity. But when calm, it reflects everything perfectly." Never underestimate the value of a peaceful mind. A calm mind makes better decisions. A calm mind avoids unnecessary mistakes. A calm mind sees opportunities others miss. That is why people who master their reactions often succeed in life. Not because they avoid problems, but because they handle problems wisely. Most arguments are not caused by the original issue. They grow because emotions take control. One angry sentence leads to another. Pride refuses to apologize. Ego demands victory. And suddenly a small disagreement becomes permanent damage. How many friendships have ended because nobody stayed calm? How many families stopped speaking because of emotional reactions? How many dreams died because someone gave up during temporary pain? Reaction matters more than most people understand. A carpenter once accidentally hit his thumb with a hammer while working. His young son watched carefully. Instead of screaming or throwing tools in anger, the carpenter paused, took a deep breath, and smiled calmly. The son asked, "Didn't that hurt?" The father replied, "Yes. But pain is not permission to lose control." Years later, the son remembered that lesson more than anything his father ever taught him. Because people learn more from your reactions than your words. Your children learn from your reactions. Your friends learn from your reactions. The world studies your reactions. And most importantly, you shape your own identity through repeated reactions. Every time you choose patience, you become more patient. Every time you choose discipline, you become more disciplined. Character is built through repetition. That is why Stoicism is a daily practice. Not a one-time decision. You train your mind every day. Morning by morning. Moment by moment. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic thinkers, was also one of the most powerful rulers in history. Yet despite his power, he constantly reminded himself, you will meet rude people, selfish people, arrogant people. Why? Because expecting perfection from humanity creates endless disappointment. The Stoics prepared mentally for reality. And when reality arrived, they remained steady. Most people become angry because life does not match their expectations. They expect everyone to understand them, respect them, agree with them, treat them fairly. But life does not promise any of that. And once you accept this truth, you stop being shocked by human behavior. You become calmer. A traveler once entered a village known for hostile people. Before entering, he asked an old man nearby, "What are the people here like?" The old man asked, "What were the people like in the last village you visited?" The traveler answered, "Terrible. Rude. Dishonest. Unfriendly." The old man nodded and said, "You will find the same here." Later another traveler asked the same question. "What were the people like in your last village?" the old man asked again. The traveler smiled. "They were kind, generous, and welcoming." The old man replied, "You will find the same here too." The lesson is powerful. Your mind shapes your experience of reality. If you carry anger everywhere, you will find conflict everywhere. If you carry peace, you will protect your peace even in difficult places. Stoicism begins inside, not outside. And one of the greatest forms of control is learning not to react immediately. Modern life encourages instant reactions, instant opinions, instant outrage, instant emotional responses. But wisdom grows slowly. There is strength in waiting, strength in observing, strength in remaining silent long enough to think clearly. A judge once listened carefully during a heated courtroom argument. While everyone shouted emotionally, the judge remained silent for several minutes before speaking. After the case ended, a young assistant asked, "How do you stay so calm during chaos?" The judge replied, "If I react emotionally like everyone else, I become blind like everyone else." That is wisdom. Emotion clouds judgment. Calmness sharpens it. And sometimes the greatest victory is simply refusing to become like the people who hurt you. A betrayed man once wanted revenge against a former friend who had lied about him publicly. For months anger consumed his thoughts. Then an older mentor told him, "Do not drink poison while waiting for another person to suffer." That sentence hit deeply. Hatred often hurts the person carrying it more than the target. So the man slowly let go of revenge. Not because the betrayal was acceptable, but because he refused to destroy his own peace over it. That is emotional maturity. Not every wound deserves retaliation. Some wounds deserve release. Stoicism teaches you to protect your inner world carefully. Because once your inner world becomes stable, outer chaos loses power over you. Imagine reaching a point where criticism no longer controls your confidence. Where delays no longer destroy your mood. Where failure no longer defines your identity. That is freedom. Real freedom is internal. A billionaire can still be emotionally weak. A poor person can still possess inner peace. Stoicism focuses on inner wealth. Patience. Wisdom. Discipline. Self-control. Those qualities cannot be stolen. And unlike money or status, they become stronger through hardship. Fire hardens steel. Difficulty reveals character. That is why challenges are not always enemies. Sometimes life tests you to strengthen you. A butterfly struggles to escape its cocoon for a reason. Without the struggle, its wings never develop properly. The same is true for human beings. Without emotional challenges, mental strength never grows. So stop asking, why is life difficult? Ask instead, what is this difficulty teaching me? That question changes everything. The Stoics viewed obstacles differently from most people. They believed obstacles could become training. Rejection teaches resilience. Failure teaches wisdom. Pain teaches perspective. Even suffering can become growth when approached with the right mindset. A man once lost almost everything in a financial collapse. His friends expected him to break down completely. But instead, he remained surprisingly calm. When asked how he stayed so composed, he answered, "I lost money. I did not lose my mind." Powerful. Many people tie their identity to temporary things. Money. Status. Relationships. Public approval. And when those things disappear, their identity collapses too. But Stoicism teaches you to build identity on character instead. Character survives storms. A disciplined mind survives failure. A calm spirit survives criticism. That is true strength. And here is something most people never hear. You do not always need to defend yourself. Sometimes silence says enough. People who constantly explain themselves often become exhausted emotionally. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. Not every accusation deserves your response. A lion does not turn around every time a small animal makes noise. Remember that. One wise teacher used to say, "The calmer you become, the clearer you think." That is absolutely true. Panic creates mistakes. Anger creates regret. Fear creates hesitation. But calmness creates solutions. When your emotions settle, your intelligence rises again. That is why great leaders stay composed during crisis. People look for stability during difficult moments. And the person who remains calm often becomes the strongest person in the room. You may not control the economy. You may not control other people. You may not control every outcome. But you always control your response. And your response determines your direction in life. Every single day you are shaping your future reactions. Every moment is training your mind either toward peace, or toward chaos. So train carefully. Protect your thoughts. Protect your energy. Protect your peace. Because inner peace is not weakness. It is a superpower in a noisy world. And one day people will notice something different about you. While others panic, you remain steady. While others argue, you remain thoughtful. While others lose themselves emotionally, you remain grounded. That is when you realize Stoicism is not just philosophy. It is transformation. If this message speaks to you, subscribe to the channel and continue this journey toward discipline, wisdom, and inner strength together. Because in the end, the person who controls their reaction, controls their life.